What about us, girl?
By the early 1990s, Michael Jackson's new music, even fresh R&B hits like Remember the Time, couldn't come close to the phenomenon he had created with Thriller.
Nothing was the same after Thriller. It was his greatest blessing, but I think also his biggest curse.
Even though Jackson couldn't replace his earlier success, he never stopped innovating. Record producer Ronnie Jerkins worked with Jackson.
Michael calls me and he says, "Why can't we create new sounds?" I said, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Someone created a drum, right? Someone created a piano. Why can't we create the next instrument?" This is a guy 40 years old who has literally done everything that you can think of, but still hungry enough to say, "I want to create an instrument."
Despite his creativity, record sales dwindled as Jackson's appearance grew stranger with whiter skin and a severely altered nose and chin.
The fact that he has spent as much time as he has changing his face, changing his appearance, it's reminiscent of patients who suffer from body dysmorphic disorder, which is a condition where when a patient looks at themselves in the mirror, they just hate what they see.
Jackson would become more reclusive, retreating into his Neverland Ranch. There he continued to surround himself with children in a make-believe paradise where he could relive his childhood.
He repudiated the adult world. For him, it was a world of betrayal.
But in 1993, disturbing allegations surfaced concerning Jackson's association with children. A 13-year-old boy filed a lawsuit accusing the singer of sexually molesting him. Jackson vehemently denied the accusation on national TV.
I ask all of you to wait and hear the truth before you label or condemn me. Don't treat me like a criminal, because I am innocent.
The case was eventually settled for nearly $20 million, and the suit was dropped in 1994. But Jackson's reputation was seriously damaged. Less than a year later, Jackson made headlines again when he married Lisa Marie Presley, the 26-year-old daughter of Elvis.
It was quite obvious to all of us from the beginning that it was a sham, that it was a publicity stunt, and it was just kind of disgusting and silly. Even from the beginning, when they're nervously holding hands at MTV, and he says, "Nobody thought this would last," and then he goes to kiss her. But she's clearly like, "Whoa, what are you doing?"
The marriage collapsed less than 2 years after the wedding. Presley filed for divorce in 1996. On the day after his death, Presley wrote on her blog that Jackson always thought he'd die early, like her father. As Jackson's marriage began to crumble, so did his career. Filled mostly with past hits and some new angry songs like Scream, 1995's History, Past, Present, and Future could not revive Jackson's success in the studio. Then in 1996, Jackson sent shockwaves around the world when it was announced he had married Debbie Rowe, his dermatologist's nurse.
The thing about Michael is that he does want what he wants, and he will find a way to get it. She offered to have a child for him. And as unconventional as it is, if you really look at it, it's sort of surrogate motherhood.
Rowe gave birth to their son, Prince Michael Jackson, in 1997. A year later, the couple had a baby daughter, Paris Michael Catherine. And in 1999, they divorced. Jackson was granted full custody of the children. In 2002, he incited worldwide outrage when he dangled his newborn son, Prince Michael II, from a balcony of a Berlin hotel.
When he dangles the baby, it's just, here's Michael again being the class clown who doesn't even realize that he's the class clown. And he thinks he's being loving. I mean, you know, it's sort of like the anti-King Midas, like everything he wants to do just gets screwed up.
Just a year later, Jackson was catapulted back into the limelight when he was featured in the Martin Bashir documentary, Living with Michael Jackson. In the show, 44-year-old Jackson admitted to letting children sleep with him in his bed at Neverland.
It's not sexual, but we're going to sleep. I tuck them in. I put a little music on, into a little story time. I read a book.
Author and self-proclaimed psychic Uri Geller was a friend of Jackson's. He said he urged the singer to keep children out of his bedroom.
I was the only person that had the chutzpah to scream at him and tell him that this business of inviting children to his bedroom is wrong. And Michael just stared at me.
It showed him to be quite abnormal.
About that?
You bought that?
About this one? This one?
Almost pathological in his spending ways, and worst of all, a potentially terrible father.
Okay, here we go. Abu!
That documentary triggered bombshell news that thrust the faded pop star back into the spotlight. Just 9 months after the show aired, the 13-year-old cancer patient featured in the documentary accused Jackson of sexual abuse.
There will be charges filed against Mr. Jackson, multiple counts.
The fact that he could even find himself in this situation after the 93 allegations shows that he didn't take that sufficiently to heart. Because if he did, he never would have been alone with a child.
Although Jackson denied the abuse allegations, he was arrested and charged with 7 counts of child molestation. In 2005, Michael Jackson would go to trial and face, perhaps, the toughest 6 months of his life.